Welcome back to Enfield Talking Newspaper. Now we return to local news with Janet.
Relatives claim repair work has not stopped burial plots sinking at an Enfield cemetery. Some graves have sunk by up to half a foot, causing distress to relatives of those buried there. Since subsidence at Lavender Hill Cemetery in Cedar Road, Enfield, was first noticed some weeks ago, Enfield Borough Council has apologised for the situation, which it says was caused by drainage problems. However, construction manager Charles Henry, whose sister-in-law is buried at the cemetery, questioned this explanation. Mr. Henry, 43, from Palmer's Green, said, "Despite being informed this has been caused from a problem with the water table, which is where low-lying ground is saturated with water, I do not believe it for one moment. The cemetery is on the top of the hill, and water tables are only seen at lower levels. As a construction manager, I am baffled why this has happened, and it has caused a lot of distress for many families. Our sister-in-law is buried very close to the area where graves started sinking, and we are very concerned the same thing will happen there." Mr. Henry said workers had been to the site and filled graves with more soil, but the problem remained. A spokesman for Enfield Council said, Enfield Council acted promptly to deal with the unexpected flooding of graves in Lavender Hill Cemetery, which has affected a number of burial plots, and reassure relatives that we are doing everything possible we can to rectify this unfortunate situation. We have excavated part of the site away from the burial plots to reduce the underground water pressure. This has solved the immediate problem, and we are now looking for a longer-term solution, perhaps through the installation of a drainage system to deal with it permanently. We would like to apologise to anyone who has been affected by the flooding, and will continue to do everything we can to ensure there is not a repeat of this issue.
Campaigners fighting proposals for a £3 billion waste processing plant are celebrating after the Waste Authority announced it will ditch its plans. The North London Waste Authority, NLWA, said it had decided to end its procurement for long-term waste management services, meaning plans to build a waste incinerator in Pinkham Way in Bounds Green will be put on hold for the foreseeable future. The authority, which represents 7 North London boroughs, including Barnet, Enfield and Haringey, claims a less expensive solution can be found. It announced that an alternative strategy will be based on continued use of the authority's existing Edmonton facility. This is expected to save the taxpayer up to £900 million over the next 30 years. A total of £21 million has been spent on the procurement process so far over the last 7 years, comprising £3 million of in-house costs, such as staff, and £18 million for external advisors. The work done by external advisors will continue to inform future strategy development, the NWLA said. NLWA Chairman Councillor Clyde Lokes said the decision is due to changing circumstances, including recent developments in planning policy in North London. He said, "These are tough times and we have to do everything we can to protect services. That means ensuring every decision we make offers real value for money." Councillor Lokes added, "Fundamental changes to local planning policy were confirmed this summer, and in the light of those changes we asked for more work to be done on a range of matters. Part of this work confirmed that with some additional capital expenditure, our current facility at Edmonton can run up to at least 2025. However, members of the Pinkham Way Alliance, a group that has campaigned against the NLWA's plans, said there is no way a change in planning policy alone could save almost £1 billion. The group claims the long-term plans were based on inaccurate data that would have cost the taxpayer for decades to come. Jeff Lever, who represents the Alliance, said, "This news does not end our concerns about Pinkham Way, but we are happy about it. I have never known plans which are backed by 7 North London boroughs to be stopped by a residents' group, so I think it's quite a dramatic achievement. Since 2002, the Waste Authority has spent almost £30 million on this fiasco, and we are still waiting for someone to come out and say that all that money has been wasted. Lynn Featherstone, the Liberal Democrat MP for Hornsey and Wood Green, said the news was a great victory for the Pinkham Way Alliance. She said, "From day one, the whole process has been a farce and the strategy deeply flawed. It's all very well the NLWA saying they're saving us money now by keeping waste management services in-house, but what about the public money wasted to date on their flawed plans? I am, of course, glad that the NLWA has finally seen sense, but it shouldn't have taken this long to realise their existing Edmonton site would be suitable." Ms Featherstone said that she and her party members would remain vigilant against any plans for the Pinkham Way site, which is still owned by the Waste Authority, which may surface in the future. A statement from the NWLA said the PWA petition was not a consideration. Members of the authority were not convinced that the procurement process now offers the right solutions for managing North London's waste in the context of extreme pressures on local authority finances. Changes in the planning and policy framework have also meant that cheaper options, originally discounted, are now more deliverable.
This next item may interest some of you more than others, but there's nothing to stop all of you going along and seeing if you agree with the decisions that have been made. And this is the fact that 3 pubs have been acclaimed as some of the best in the country for the quality of their real ale. The campaign for real ale, CAMRA, has listed the New Crown in Chaseside Southgate, the Moon Underwater in Chaseside Enfield, and the Picture Palace in Lincoln Road, Ponders End, in its Good Beer Guide for 2014. Published on Thursday, the 12th of September, the trio of pubs owned by chain Wetherspoons was selected after regular visits from CAMRA and close scrutiny of the real ales each pub has to offer. Customer service, decor and overall atmosphere were also considered when making the final decision, with all 3 pubs taking part in the International Real Ale Festival 2013 back in April. The New Crown manager said, "We offer our customers an excellent range of real ales at all times, including those from regional brewers and micro brewers, as well as hosting our own beer festivals. Staff at the pub work hard to ensure that the real ales on offer are kept in first-class condition at all times, and the pub's inclusion in the guide highlights this." A CAMRA spokesman said the pub deserves their place in the Good Beer Guide 2014. "It is our belief that if the licensee serves an excellent pint of real ale, then everything else in the pub, including customer service, quality of food and atmosphere, are likely to be of an equally high standard." So that's maybe Thursday, so I'm popping out while you hear some more from the rest of our staff here.
Now here's a cautionary note on that. Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows met medical staff tackling alcohol abuse at Chase Farms Accident and Emergency as he prepares to launch a campaign against super strength booze. He had a lengthy discussion with Callum Rocha, senior alcohol nurse, and A&E consultant Jeff Hinchley at the hospital in the Ridgeway, Enfield, to highlight the importance of the service, which has screened 4,000 patients to assess their alcohol intake and refer those who may be at risk of addiction. Mr Burrows, who was formerly an advisor to the government on drugs and alcohol policy, is preparing to launch a campaign aimed at tackling the availability of super-strength ciders and lagers. He told the Enfield Advertiser, "I've been impressed by the success of the Reducing the Strength campaign in Ipswich, which reduced antisocial behaviour caused in particular by street drinking. It involved explaining to retailers the harm caused by high-strength beer and cider, as well as the benefits of reduced antisocial behaviour resulting from ending sales in an attempt to stop them stocking the products. I was very impressed by the dedication of Ms Rocha and the other nurses," added Mr Burrows. "The service needs to be supported, particularly considering the demand there is for it." The service has been funded by Enfield Council's drug and alcohol team and has been run by Ms Rocha since June last year. It will remain at the hospital when the A&E department is downgraded to an urgent care centre. We've recently introduced the fast alcohol screening tool for anyone who comes into A&E so that they can be assessed, and this has been very successful, said Ms. Rocha. Patients who are deemed at risk or believe they may have a problem with alcohol will then be referred to me, after which they can make a further appointment. It's a good way to raise awareness, and for us, a way to refer people to the excellent services out there in the community. The Department of Health says that 13,371 people in Enfield are higher risk drinkers, men consuming more than 8 units of alcohol a day and women more than 6 units.
A raft of businesses have pledged their support for a new engineering college, which will be based in Edmonton. The Meridian Engineering and Science Academy will be built as part of Enfield Council's plan to regenerate Meridian Water, the area in Edmonton near the IKEA store. The college will be set up jointly by Enfield Council, North London Chamber of Commerce, an education consortium, and the London Community Learning Trust. And the 3 organisations have appealed for more local businesses to come forward to partner the college. Working alongside Anglia Ruskin University, the businesses will have an input into what is taught at the college. And in doing so, they will guarantee that trainees there can learn skills which companies in the borough specifically need. Warburton's Bakery, recycling provider London Waste, newsprinters petrochemical company Johnson Matthey, navigation equipment supplier Kelvin Hughes, and Aerodome Construction have already signed up to support the engineering college. But the council has stressed that there is still room for local businesses to get involved in the new scheme. Cabinet Member for Businesses and Regeneration, Del Goddard, explained that the college was crucial for boosting the employment prospects of the young people in Enfield. He told the Advertiser, "We want to make sure that businesses in our borough can draw upon an effective, hard-working and well-trained workforce that can help these companies expand and flourish. This college will provide hundreds of young people with the skills that local businesses need, and going into partnership with MESA, it is a fantastic opportunity which I believe our companies should grab with both hands."
Children who were facing an outdoor play ban have been given a 6-month reprieve. At a packed meeting of the Council's Planning Committee at the Civic Centre in Silver Street, Enfield Town, councillors voted unanimously against a planning officer's recommendation to refuse an application to let children play in the garden of the nursery on the green in Chaseside, Enfield. The recommendation had been made after the environmental health officers ruled that the noise level from kids playing outside amounted to a loss of amenity for neighbours. However, councillors first defied the recommendation and then held a second ballot, voting for a motion to grant a temporary 6-month licence to nursery owner Kay Wildman, allowing children to play in the revamped garden. Committee Chairman Andreas Kostanides said the 6-month licence gave the nursery owner and residents the chance to compromise. However, speaking to the Advertiser after the meeting, Mrs. Wildman said the decision had been a little bit of an anticlimax. Although relieved her young charges would not be shut up indoors all day, she said the second motion the councillors agreed to was to allow the children to play outside for another 6 months while there is further monitoring. And then I have to make another application, but there are costs involved in that. Mrs. Wildman added that when she was originally granted the temporary 12-month application in July 2012, she was informed that monitoring would be continuous. However, she has since learned that environmental health officers only took noise readings from nearby back gardens in the first 2 weeks of July 2013. "Frankly, I don't know if I can afford to put in another application," she said. "I have to think about the cost implications, keeping people in jobs. If our numbers start dropping, that would have a detrimental effect on the business, as Ofsted do not look favourably on it." However, Town Ward Councillor Mike Rye offered support and said he would be prepared to act as a mediator between Mrs. Wildman and her neighbours and arrange a meeting. He said, "There might be a concern among residents that Mrs. Wildman is looking to expand the business to increase incrementally the number of children she has at the premises. Maybe if she can reassure them on that front, a dialogue could be opened." The advertiser contacted neighbours of the nursery, however no one wished to comment on the record about the application.
Residents' fears are mounting after council bosses approved plan to build a 4-storey block of flats overlooking a row of Victorian terraces. The development in Baker Street, Enfield, will see 10 flats built above a new Tesco Metro store, with parking space for residents behind the development. But would-be neighbours living in Churchbury Road are devastated that the plans for the development were signed off at a meeting of the council's planning committee despite their strenuous objections. Speaking to the advertiser after the decision had been made, Christine English said, "We didn't expect to win. It was a done deal before the meeting. I'm certain of that. Enfield Council want more houses, and I know we need more houses, but this development is just too big. We will lose our gardens because they will be completely overshadowed by the 4 stories of the development. We will lose all lights. It will mean that we can't sit out in our gardens, and those people with children will be worried that anyone will be able to look down on them." She added that the secure play area of the Ivanhoe flats that back onto the development will also be overlooked by the new housing. The committee voted in accordance with the officer's recommendations to grant the development, despite Mrs. English's concerns and those of her neighbours. In their written recommendation to the committee, officers concluded the proposed development is considered not to have a detrimental effect on neighbouring occupiers' residential or visual amenities, nor harm the character and appearance of the existing site and wider locality. A bookmaker's and a takeaway restaurant will be demolished to make way for the development.
A man was arrested on Monday by police investigating the fatal shooting of a 30-year-old father in Southgate earlier this year. Jamie Marsh-Smith is in custody at a central London police station after the Metropolitan Police took the unusual step of issuing a public appeal to trace the 22-year-old. Safar Aaron died after being shot outside his home in High Street, Southgate, in April. He was the father of a 1-month-old baby. A 20-year-old man who was also arrested on Monday on suspicion of assisting an offender remains in custody at a police station in the Thames Valley police area. And on Saturday, Wayne McNeish, 32, from Kilburn, northwest London, was remanded in custody when he appeared at Hendon Magistrates Court charged with perverting the course of justice. McNeish was sent for trial at Harrow Crown Court, where he is due to appear shortly. Police investigating the shooting of Mr. Aaron are offering a reward of up to £30,000 for information leading to the arrest and prosecution of those responsible for his death. Detectives are also looking at the possible links to 2 other shootings, one in Tottenham on April the 22nd, when the victim escaped, and one in December the 30th of last year in Lower Edmonton.
A stately home's green grass was awash with blue dye to commemorate the 400th anniversary of a river that once flowed through its grounds. Diverted to bring drinking water to London, the new river was recreated at its former course in Middleton House Gardens in Bulls Cross, Enfield. The river is still a fundamental part of the capital's water supply, and on Saturday a new water feature that has a pump to recreate wave motion was installed inside the gardens where the river once flowed. Special guest Brigadier Andrew Parker Bowles, OBE, unveiled the feature in front of 2 original New River bridges. Brigadier Parker Bowles is the great-great-nephew of Edward Augusta Bowles, one of the 20th century's greatest gardeners and renowned for making the gardens famous, and the great-great-grandson of the last governor of the New River Company, Henry Carrington Bowles. He said, "It takes me back 50 years ago when the real river ran through here. What a wonderful day." Andrew Turvey, head gardener at Middleton House, said, The celebration was thoroughly enjoyable. Recreating the new river on the lawn was quite an accomplishment, and the final result was breathtaking. The spectacular water feature will remain in the gardens as a beautiful reminder of where the new river once flowed. Thank you to everyone who attended, and in particular to the gardening team here at Middleton House Gardens and Brigadier Andrew Parker Bowles, who led the celebrations. The gardens boast 8 acres of exotic plants, a carp lake, and a number of historical artefacts collected and treasures by Mr. Bowles, including pieces from the original St Paul's Cathedral and the Enfield Market Cross.
Have you ever had to dial 999, panic-stricken and distressed? Your words tangle in your throat as you try to spit out what happened. Maybe a missing child, a car crash, an armed robbery. Most don't give a thought to the person who answers the phone. We take it for granted. If we need them, they will come to our rescue. But being a police operator in the 999 control room takes some degree of resilience, as I learnt when I met Lindsay Beck at the Peel Centre in Aerodrome Road, Hendon. This is crime in action, and it can be very distressing. People ringing you can't be calm, so you have to be calm for them. You have to become a robot to stop yourself from getting emotionally involved. She takes around 80 calls per shift on topics from domestic abuse and suicide to cats stuck in trees. Sometimes it appears you are shouting at the caller, but you have to take control and use tactics. Some are so traumatised that they barely hear what you are saying. You sort of have to snap them back to reality. So far this year, the force has been inundated with 14,000 hoax and nuisance calls, and operators find this can be draining on the system. Lindsay, who started her job 4 years ago, was once forced to teach 2 motorists as the rules of the road when they phoned to inquire about the rules of a roundabout. There's usually a burst in the volume of calls in the mornings before work and schools start, and on Friday and Saturday evenings. If the incident is considered an emergency, police officers have 15 minutes to arrive at the scene. Last year, Lindsay received a commendation from Commissioner Bernard Hogan Howe after she helped calm a domestic abuse victim. She said, "I don't know how I do it, you just do it. You know you have to get them to safety and keep them calm. It's all about the victim. The best part of the job is the success stories." It sounds like a cliche, but that's why I started this job, to make a real difference.
More than 400 families in Enfield, hit by the government's controversial bedroom tax, were in rent arrears by the start of September, an investigation by the Advertiser has discovered. The policy, officially called the Spare Room Subsidy, came into force on April the 1st, and 1,460 households who receive the housing benefit and are renting from Enfield Council or a housing association have been hit with a 14% cut in the allowance if they have spare bedroom, rising to 25% for those with 2 or more additional bedrooms. Among those households, 411 have found themselves in rent arrears. The council said that some of these had been in arrears before the policy came into force and that there had been no evictions to date. Just 12 households have managed to find alternative, smaller accommodation in Enfield, and a further 8 have moved out of the borough. Ahmet Okinya, Council Cabinet Member for Housing, said he was concerned that the policy was causing great disruption to people's lives. This tax is causing some to move away from their roots and the homes they have established over a number of years. What is most serious is that people are being penalised through this tax because there simply are not enough smaller houses for them to move into. It is a national problem only solved if we build more affordable housing.
Pupils from Bishop Stopford School in Enfield will take on young athletes from across London, Essex and Hertfordshire in the annual Lee Valley Cup. The event, which will be held at Lee Valley Athletics Centre, sees Year 10 and 11 youngsters compete in 9 indoor and track events, including sprints, hurdles, relay race, high jump, long jump and shot put. Held after school hours, the format for this year's competition consists of 2 preliminary qualifying heats in early October. The victorious teams will then qualify for the final, which will take place on Wednesday, October the 23rd. Lee Valley Athletics Centre manager Mick Bond said, "Following the games last year, it's good to see this continued interest in athletics. Competing in events like the Lee Valley Cup is often the first step to joining a club and long-term participation in the sport. We're very proud to be organising this competition once again to help make this happen."
Police are appealing for information after 3 men tried to abduct a 9-year-old girl. The girl was at play in an area near Bushhill Park Library when her grandparents phoned her at about 6:30 p.m. and told her to come home. She was approaching the junction of Agricola Place and Main Avenue when 3 men of Eastern European appearance jumped from a large silver transit-style van which had stopped beside her and began shouting at her to get in. The girl sprinted away and hid in a stairwell of a block of flats until she thought she heard their voices move away, and she ran home. The police were called as soon as she got there. Since her ordeal, the girl has refused to leave the confines of her school or home. Police said that the 3 suspects were driving a vehicle similar to a silver Ford Transit Jumbo, and they drove off along Lincoln Road towards Enfield Town after the attempted abduction.
A talented designer said the hard work was worth it after showcasing her work at London Fashion Week. Yosana de Sita Rodriguez, who attends Winchmore Hill School in Laburnum Grove, Enfield, competed in the Fashion Awareness Direct (FAD) Junior Awards alongside 19 other designers creating garments to present at London Fashion Week. Each designer had to adhere to the Here and Now theme, and despite not claiming the top prize, the Enfield student took home the pattern cutting award for her dress. Ms. Rodriguez said, "I was extremely nervous, happy and excited all at the same time, but I also felt privileged to be there, as not many people from my age group get the opportunity to go to London Fashion Week, let alone showcased on the catwalk. It was amazing. It was an amazing feeling, and I am so proud of myself because it made me realise that all the hard work put behind anything you believe in will always be worth it." Among 20 designers, narrowed down from 100 entrants, the 18-year-old admitted she was surprised to win the pattern cutting award. When talking about her future prospects, the designer said she hoped to study fashion design at university and one day own her own label. She said, "I am 100% grateful for taking part in this programme, as I've gained a better insight of the fashion industry, as well as various technical skills in pattern cutting and design development."
We've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Janet, Sally, John, Keith and Colin on the controls, it's goodbye.
Bye.